Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kate Knowful, and if you're new here, I make impractical crafts and lifestyle content. And this week, I've decided to take my confidence that I got from the clay birds like 2 videos ago and make some clay wind chimes because we are setting up our baker's rack for our balcony, and I'm so excited. And I just want our little whimsical moon that chimes. So without any further ado, let's hop straight on into it. As always, thank you so much to my husband Hens for drawing for me. This is always a team effort whenever anything that needs to be drawn happens on this channel, so huge thank you to him. Just like with the clay birds that I did not too long ago, I cut out the design out of wax paper before I cut it out of the clay. In retrospect, I'm not quite sure why I did this, and I think in the future I will just cut it out of clay rather than bothering to cut it out of the paper. I'm using the terracotta colored air dry clay from Crayola. I like it. I will say it kind of stains everything, and it takes a lot of work to get it to the correct consistency, so it takes a lot of muscle and quite a while. I also used 2 chopsticks to measure the thickness, and don't worry, my can of green beans made an appearance again until I got smarter and put saran wrap on the clay to use my rolling pin to make sure it would be big enough for the moon. This is easily my favorite part of any clay project, is watching the time lapse of cutting it out. I think it is so satisfying. I also went through and I drew some stars onto the moon. And you can see I actually tried freehand cutting one out, and it did not work. It looked funky. And then using a little bit of water from what I watched on YouTube after my bird video is to use as little water as possible, and that kind of helps it keep from curving, which I did notice this time around that my moon did not curve as much as birds, which is fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted. The only thing I will say about these little stars is that the smoothing them out really just left my fingerprint on them because of how small they are. I poked some holes into the moon and into the stars, and as you can see, I used a pencil, which was not the best idea, and you'll see why later. And with that, I put my moon and stars to dry for a few days. Recently, I've been watching a lot of Warhammer tutorials when it comes to painting, so I decided to do my best shot at it. So I painted the entire thing brown just to give it some depth for when I did dry brush. And if you don't know what dry brushing is, I used this dark color of purple, and then you abuse the heck out of your brush and you have very little paint left over, and you just very lightly brush on whatever color. After I was done with the dry brush, I put it aside to dry for a few days so I could go back and focus on the moon. Once my moon was thoroughly dry, which took about 3 days, I felt very justified in the sandpaper that I bought for the birds, because here I am using it again. First I used a bigger grit and then a smaller one just to make sure that I tried to get all the edges super smooth. Admittedly, the face I was worried to buff out too much, so it's not as smooth as it could have been on the edge, but the top and bottom ended up fairly smooth, so I'm pretty happy with that. I then used this yellow to go in and paint the moon and the stars. I really like it because it kind of has like a 90s celestial feel, which I liked. I will say this paintbrush that I initially used was not thoroughly cleaned from the last time I used it, and so there was a little bit of blue mixing in with the paint, and so I ended up switching to a bigger brush
just to kind of try to smooth out some of that blue that got mixed in. And I don't think you can tell in the final result, but you can definitely see it in the video that it looks a little bit blue. I also went in and I painted all of the stars, which was really difficult because of the way I had to hold them. And honestly, the entire time the stars were giving me some trouble, which is maybe some unfortunate foreshadowing. So just stick with me here, you'll see what happens. With the house, I went through and I did a ton of dry brushing. So on the top, I did an orange, and then all over the body of the teapot, I did this gold. And I did this because I wanted it to look like it was in the moonlight. And I used these markers that are meant for minifigs, for D&D and Warhammer. And honestly, they work fantastic. I am so happy with them. The colors are quite different on a darker surface than on a light one, like what my brother-in-law had been doing. And then I just went in and painted all the details, so brown door, green grass, brown window frames, and it all turned out so cute. I know it doesn't quite come across on my channel, but the improvement that I have had from before I showed my art on my channel to now has improved greatly just because I've kept doing it. So I'm super proud of that aspect for myself. To tie it into the celestial theme, I tried to make a crescent moon on the door. You can kind of see it, but it's not as crisp as I would have wanted it originally. And the mushrooms got little star dots because I thought they were so cute and such a fun idea. In the midst of all of this, Hens and Owen put together our baker's rack, so here is a short montage of that. Then I went in and painted all the details of the face, so some depth with the orange, and then the outlines with the black. I originally had no colors planned out for this. I kind of went with whatever I had in my box, and I really like how they came out. The orange and then this pink blush for the cheek I think looks really good. I was a little concerned that my moon would end up looking kind of like a clown, so I used my finger to try to smooth it out and make some of the yellow be able to be seen from the other side. And then using the orange for the lips instead of the pink because I liked it better, and adding her little mouth line straight through. Then I went through and I glazed all of these stars. You can see I still have all of them here, but be ready, don't get too attached for them. As well as the moon. I really like this glaze. I think it helps a lot. It makes it look like it's been fired. Here you can see I'm using a pencil to try to poke the hole, and this did not work. I broke several stars through the process of this and became extremely frustrated through this whole process. Just like one after another were breaking. I'm so glad I did not break my moon using the pencil because of the way the pencil is shaped. The back hole was itty bitty. Hence came up with the idea of fishing wire, so that's what I ended up going with. And with that, that takes us to the reveal.
Okay, here it is. And a few notes is obviously had to change directions. Shout out to Hints for coming up with the fishing wire thing because I was getting ready to lose my mind. um, Also, I like her. I think she's cute. She is not what I had originally had in mind, but that's okay. When you're doing anything in life, sometimes you have to change directions a little bit, and that's okay, no matter how frustrating that is in the moment. I'm going to go in and paint the backside of the stars at least, since they kind of move around more than I thought they were going to. I don't know. I think her face turned out really cute, hence is the one who drew it, of course. Okay, as far as the fairy house goes, I was super hesitant with it. You can't really see the purple under anymore, except for when it's in the direct sun, like in the reveal. But I'm pretty happy with it. Also, these paint pens that I got, super cool. They're my brother-in-law's, but he leaves them here to play during D&D, like to draw during D&D. So I decided to try them out since I'm the one who bought them. And I'm obsessed. I need every color because they work really, really well. So here they both are. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy impractical crafts and lifestyle content, I am the channel for you. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit sick. Everything is blooming here way sooner than it usually does because we had a very warm, wet winter this year, and so all the flowers are out like 2 months early, and I am feeling it. So, thank you so much for being here, and make sure you like and subscribe, and I will be seeing you in my next video. Toodles!